Hey guys, and welcome back for another video. So today we're going to be going to a channel called MTV Impact, and basically they have this video called Light Skin Privilege Decoded. Okay, and you know me, whenever you have a person who is black trying to tell me that I got light skin privilege, I'm gonna go ahead and debunk it myself. She wants to decode light skin privilege, well I'm gonna go ahead and debunk most, if not all, of what's probably gonna be in this video. So go ahead, don't forget to leave me a comment, like and subscribe. I appreciate you guys so much. Again, like lately you guys have been so great with the comments and the shares and the likes and all that, so I just wanted to stop and say thank you because I so appreciate you. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Shall we?
Today, friends, we're talking about the light-skinned elephant in the room and why it keeps getting all of the attention. In the world of pop culture, darker-skinned women have frequently gotten the short end of the success stick. Just consider the most successful black female singers in the last decade. You can probably come up with dozens of names, including Alicia Keys, Ciara, Mariah Carey, Jhené Aiko, and of course, Beyonce. But can you name even 5 deeply melanated female pop stars?
Can I name 5 deeply melanated pop stars? Well, I don't know if they all would be considered pop stars, but they definitely would be considered stars. We can start with Viola Davis. Let's go with Lupita Nyong'o, Jennifer Hudson, honey, Issa Rae. How about that Kelly Rowland? Do I need to go on? Those are just 5 that I can think of right off the bat, right off the top of my head that most people know and are considered to be beautiful dark-skinned women. So, I'm just saying, are you the one that's downplaying dark-skinned women's beauty? Because that's what it sounded like to me. You say that we can't even name 5? Oh, wow. Wow.
We did have Brandy as Cinderella, but that was 20 years ago. Wait, was it? From Lena Horne, the first black actress to sign a major studio deal, to Halle Berry, the first black actress to win a Best Actress Academy Award.
Okay, so the Black Cinderella movie was the last time that a black woman was treated as if she was special or given a lot of special attention in a movie. I'm sorry, what was The Woman King? And they were dark-skinned women. I'm just saying. So again, we need to stop downplaying the dark-skinned women that are out here getting roles and out here making millions, honey, because they're doing it. And maybe you just don't want to give attention to it. Maybe you're just the one that's stuck on the light skin privilege thing, but I don't know what the purpose of this video is, but yeah, so far, what she's saying, not holding a lot of water in my book.
Lighter-skinned and often mixed-race women have usually broken through society's biggest barriers first. Now, this isn't to say they weren't hardworking or didn't deserve it, but black people with lighter skin, straighter hair, and more Eurocentric features have always been more likely to be given the paltry number of opportunities to access white spaces and institutions. This is the reality, but why? Now, before we answer that, we gotta say, who's considered dark-skinned or light?
And so what if lighter skinned people have been given more access to what so-called white spaces? If black people like herself are dark skinned, what is she doing in this video speaking for MTV Impact on this particular subject? Really, they could have technically used a light-skinned person to talk about this. Light-skinned people, biracial people have more access to white spaces. I'm sorry, since when do black people who often claim that they don't need white spaces, they don't want to be around white people, they don't need white people's handouts and things of that nature, and they create their own lanes and they have their own ideas and people are copying them and culturally appropriating them, then I'm sorry, what space do you need to be in if that's the case? Why are you so eager to get into those white spaces if you create the wave, if you create the trends and people are just simply copying you? There's just one argument for that, but we'll see if this holds any more water, because so far, you guys, it's not holding much.
Skinned is all relative and definitely varies from culture to culture. But for our purposes, when we say light-skinned, think Nicki Minaj, Zoe Kravitz, Rihanna, Zendaya. And when we say dark-skinned, think Viola Davis, Kelly Rowland, and Lupita.
That's interesting because I just mentioned those very 3 dark-skinned women earlier. Yes, you do think of them when you think of dark-skinned and beautiful. I did also name Jennifer Hudson and Issa Rae that she didn't mention because she was saying that you couldn't even think of 5, and I added 2 more to the pot. Whatever though. I'm pretty sure there's a lot more. Those are just, again, the darkest females, because I mean, you have your Gabrielle Unions, you have your Jada Pickett's, you know, they're brown skin or caramel, darker than light skin or biracial women who are very beautiful and often get a lot of limelight and roles. So, I mean, if we're gonna include brown skin, then we can open up that door even more. It's not always light skin, it's not always biracial women getting the most attention, I'm just saying.
Of this light versus dark inequality stem all the way back to the days of slavery, when lighter-skinned slaves, often the mixed children of white slave owners, aka the product of rape, aka you're not slick Thomas Jefferson, were given domestic work as opposed to the physical labor of darker slaves, thus landing higher on the skin tone hierarchy because of their proximity to whiteness. This separation was enacted based on the slave traders' false beliefs that darker-skinned people were better suited for hard labor, whereas lighter-skinned blacks were thought to be better suited for intelligent and domestic tasks. Don't get it twisted though, whether in the house or in the field, they were still enslaved, so it was definitely not a choice, no matter what your weird cousin on Facebook says. Out of the house slave versus field slave mentality came white supremacist stereotypes that framed light-skinned people as the good blacks and darker-skinned people as lazy, unintelligent, unattractive, undesirable, criminal, aggressive, and just all around bad.
The thing is though, like, while they're saying that, I think that the biggest problem that brown skin or dark skin people miss is that when it comes down to it, when white people know that you're black or mixed with it at some point, they're gonna put you in the same category as the other blacks. So if they're thinking that black people are all of these things and they may not be the particularly best set of characteristics that a human being can acquire, well, they're thinking that about us too. I mean, at the end of the day, there is the one drop rule, and when it comes down to it, a lot of black people look at biracial people as black, and a lot of other race people look at biracial people as black too. And I think that's the point that darker skinned black people miss. And so that's why so many biracial people, despite being biracial, often identify as being black and often find themselves hanging out with, living in proximity to, and just overall associating with more black people. Not in all cases, especially when they're born outside of the US, but specifically here, a lot of biracial people have the same story I do, where it's like, yeah, you know, you're biracial or whatever, but your associations, your neighborhoods that you grew up in, the family ties, they're mostly black. I mean, I'm just saying.
Now, while the skin tone hierarchy known as colorism is a byproduct of white supremacy, it's not just a white thing. Stereotypical figures like the angry black woman and sassy black friend are, unfortunately, also present in black-made media. In the recent past, there have been numerous examples of black people in the media perpetuating the idea that lighter is better. The popular 90s sitcom Martin, as brilliant as it was, is a shining example of this problem. Light-skinned Gina was positioned as attractive, intelligent, and funny, versus her dark-skinned friend Pam, who despite being bangin', was often coded as unattractive and the butt of many of Martin's jokes. And
okay, that may have been true, but I do remember in that show, a lot of times they teased Gina for being light-skinned too. A lot of biracial people, a lot of light-skinned people who are very fair like that often have to deal with being called white or made fun of for not being light-skinned or having their black card fully removed from them altogether. So while there were some jokes made about Pam being unattractive, a lot of that may have stemmed from her attitude, because she's forgetting and neglecting to mention the difference in the demeanor between them. Yes, you're right. Gina was portrayed as the more feminine and attractive one, but that's the personality that she also embodied. She wasn't running around like Pam. She had that stankiness about her. She had that neck roll about her. She always looked angry. She always had her hands on her hips. So it was more to do with her attitude, I think, that made her so ugly. And that's what Martin was kind of like poking fun at, you know what I mean? Like pretty much saying that the scowl that she carried, that resting bitch face that she always had, is what made her unattractive. And so while you're saying it has to do with her dark skin, I'm thinking it has more to do with her behavior.
what we will not do is stand for anyone coming for sitcom legend Tashina Arnold. And there's been even more recent instances of this. Remember that time Kanye West held a Yeezy casting asking for multiracial women only? Or when the casting call for the movie Straight Outta Compton described A girls as the hottest of the hottest with real hair, and D girls as, and I quote, African American girls, poor, not in good shape, medium to dark skin tone. Yikes.
Okay, and if that was their observation, then that was their observation. They were African American, poor, not in good shape, and darker skin. Wow. Well, I mean, if that's what they saw, that's what they saw. It's unfortunate. Who's really to blame? Is it society's blame for noticing and pointing it out? Or is it your fault for falling into that stereotype or that statistic?
Yikes, it be your own people. Or remember when rapper Kodak Black, himself a dark-skinned black man, said that he doesn't date women who share his complexion because they're too gutter? Come on now, Kodak, black is in your name. These examples point to the fact that many black people, even those with the power to create change within their own industries.
Okay, and so maybe in his case, Kodak Black, maybe the women that he has met that were around his complexion were too gutter. I mean, let's be honest. This black woman who's speaking is dark skinned and she's very beautiful and articulate. Do you think that she would date somebody like Kodak Black? More than likely, no. I mean, if she's on a certain level, she could be exposed to guys that are on Kodak's level financially, but who got their money in a different way, perhaps, who come off a little different, maybe who don't have like a tattoo in the middle of their forehead. I'm just saying, you know, it's not a cute look. It's kind of looking a little demonic. I mean, if I'm just speaking from my own opinion, not attractive. Maybe that's the sedittiness of me. But then again, I kind of sense that in her. Maybe he's just saying that when it comes down to it, the dark-skinned girls that I'm exposed to, they don't act like you, ma'am. They're not all articulate and well-spoken. They're the ones that come off gutter. These are the ones that I would have a chance with.
Sometimes internalize the very colorist stereotypes that have kept them down. Now, the media doesn't necessarily cause colorism, but it reinforces it in ways that have real-world implications. Colorism has much wider ramifications than just who we see on our movie screens or on the cover of magazines. So prepare your hot Cheetos and Tums, because this gets even sadder. A 2011 study conducted in North Carolina found out that of the over 12,000 African American women prisoners, light-skinned women were sentenced to 12% less prison time than darker ones. Or consider
based off of what crimes? You know, you're saying that these women are being convicted at a lesser rate and for lesser time, but at the end of the day, are the darker skinned women committing the more heinous crimes? I mean, we need to ask that question. You can't just base it off of, oh, they got less time because they're light skinned. What were the crimes that were committed by the dark skinned women? What were the crimes committed by the light skinned women? Now, if they were the same and that discrepancy was there, then yeah, I can concede to that. But you're not giving me enough information. You're just pointing out some random statistic and trying to convince me that it's about light skinnedness. And I'm trying to tell you, I need to know more information.
The fact that according to a Harvard University study, dark-skinned blacks in the United States have lower socioeconomic status, more punitive relationships with the criminal justice system, diminished prestige, and less likelihood of holding elective office compared with their lighter counterparts. There have even been black dating apps with filters for skin tone. In other words, by privileging lighter skin, straighter hair, and more Eurocentric features, the media creates an environment that affects dark-skinned people on a social, political, and personal level.
That's a shame. I mean, you shouldn't be trying to catfish people on dating sites, changing your skin tone. And I get like what they're saying about the media and how certain women are kind of put on Front Street. And I'm not oblivious to the fact that maybe there are some privileges that light-skinned people or biracial people have had. But I think that a lot of it in 2023 has been diminished. I think that people are understanding that the world comes in all shapes and sizes. And I do believe that media is trying to give other people a chance. That's why you have your Lizzos. That's why you have your Lupita Nyong'os. You have a variety of different shapes, sizes, colors. All types of people have a lane. They have a possible lane now. And back in the 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, I'm pretty sure in the United States, that wasn't the case. In fact, if you weren't white, your likelihood of being in a movie in a role that was anything at all besides a maid or like some form of service person. Like it just wasn't likely, you know. So times have changed, things have really come a long way, and I have seen movies in which there were a fully black cast. The person that was given the most attention was a darker skinned person. I mean, I think a lot of Tyler Perry movies, for example, are like that. You have beautiful dark skinned women sometimes in the major roles. You know, it's almost like he purposefully never uses a biracial woman. You know what I'm saying? So I think that just depending on where you're looking at, I think that there are avenues and lanes for everybody nowadays. And for people to still be making videos like this, trying to point out privileges and whatnot, instead of just understanding that there needs to be less of a division and more of a expansion and equality, as far as just like making sure that everybody is included in this black community thing, instead of trying to make lanes for brown skin, lanes for dark skin, lanes for light skin, lanes for biracial. You know, we all are black. Let's just come together. Let's have our community. Let's do what's right by each other. Let's create family ties and bonds and network with each other so that we can build a better community. That's what I would like to see black people do, and stop having this division and stop having this weirdo jealousy stuff based on things that we can't control, like the bodies we're born in. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just me.
And yes, the only Aunt Viv I recognize is the original dark-skinned Aunt Viv. Now, of course, lighter-skinned people of color are not exempt from discrimination or racism, but acknowledging that they experience light-skin privilege doesn't negate those struggles. But don't worry, I have great news. Well, maybe not great news, but helpful. There are some things that all people of color can do to combat colorism within their communities and in pop culture as a whole. This includes catching yourself from using language like pretty for a dark-skinned girl, engaging in open and honest conversations about how colorism affects your daily life, and if you're light-skinned, acknowledging your privilege. Because at the end of the day, it shouldn't be team light skin versus team dark skin. It should be team melanated people of all sizes, shapes, and shades versus society's dumb bull.
And you know what? On that note, I definitely agree with her. Like, why are we still talking about this? Why are we in 2023 still trying to tell light-skinned, biracial, whatever people that they are somehow living a more privileged life, but yet you don't want them to feel like they're superior. You don't want them to feel like they're more beautiful. You don't want them to feel like they're more selected. Don't think that men are more attracted to you. Don't think that they desire you. Don't think that they're more attracted to your hair, your skin, your features, none of that. Don't let this go to your big old light skin head, okay? Just know that you have privilege. Although you're not allowed to believe or talk about it. I'm just saying, you guys leave me a comment, tell me what you think about this whole scenario and situation. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And again, I appreciate you guys so much. Go ahead and check out, I have a new playlist called Good Old Advice. And all it is a compilation of all the videos that I've probably ever made on this channel that offer advice. So go ahead and check it out and tell me what you think. And I really appreciate it. I will see you next time.